Man, I'm thrilled to call a good friend, one of the all-time greats in the history of the sport, Charles Woodson. How are you, Charles?
Rich, I'm doing well, man. How are you?
What was that like on Sunday, man?
Man, it was a lot of fun for somebody who played in that stadium, who wore the silver and black for 11 seasons. It was a pretty special occasion for myself to be able to come back and light the torch. It was just unbelievable, man. You should have saw the parking lot before the game. The amount of fans that were there early, packed in, man. Ready, to go support their team, man. It was a pretty special moment.
And then the end of the game, did the air just absolutely exit the building like that, Charles?
Yeah, man. I think, if you watch the game, the Raiders had it pretty much in control, for most of the game, and then all of a sudden, like you just, stated, kind of all of the air let out of the stadium. I think everybody was anticipating, having that moment, winning the last game in the Coliseum. And all of a sudden, man, it seems like, last couple of minutes of the game, and, they go down and score. And, it was just, man, I think that was rough, for all of the fans in that stadium. And I don't think they knew how to react after, the final score.
Well, it sounded like there were some boos for Derek Carr, to be honest with you, Charles. That talk about awkward and something that for a guy who's given his heart and his soul, and maybe not all the time stellar play, but it was awkward. There was no other way to put it for that.
Yeah, certainly. And very disappointed, that happened. Disappointed for anybody who would have been, born for Derek Carr. He's a guy that goes out there, man, and he puts it all out there on the line. Whether you like his play or don't like his play, it doesn't matter. He goes out there and plays hard. And I saw clips of him after the game, shaking fans' hands and walking around and giving his thanks. And, I don't think that was necessary for anyone to do if they were directing it at Derek. I thought he made the biggest play in the game at the end of the game. That was, he ended up getting was basically penalized for, the play that he made and getting down out of bounds and, giving his team a chance to win that game. And all of a sudden, you go from a first down and on probably the 20 to backed up. So, I'm not, too pleased about the way that happened because I know that kid, man, he's a good kid and certainly don't deserve that.
Yeah, I know you spoke with him as part of NFL The Grind. That's tonight. How'd you find Gruden? I mean, obviously he's your first coach in the NFL, and you've known him a long time. How did you find him? How would you term him when you chatted with him after a team that went 6-4 and had so much in front of them and is now 6-8, Charles?
Yeah, I think he was he had a lot of high hopes for the team. They were playing well, and two away games, Jets and then Kansas City, and it seems like things just kind of unraveled a little bit. I know they thought this season, again had high hopes, but I know they knew it would be a tough season. But things were looking pretty bright, until those couple of weeks, and then this last game, I know he was. It was important for him to go out and put a good showing on that last game, and to get the win for the fans. I know he was, certainly doing everything he could in his power to get that win. But I just think, for everybody, it's been a long season, and you find yourself now having lost, three straight, and nobody can believe right now that it's this point after things were looking so good.
Charles Woodson here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'm going to put it right in your breadbasket here, Charles. I give you Derek Carr, or I give you the field of any other quarterback on the planet right now. The starter for the 2020 Las Vegas Raiders Week 1 is going to be who?
I think it'll be Derek Carr.
You do?
I don't see them moving. Yeah, I don't see them moving on from Derek Carr at this point. I mean, Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that scenario.
Why? Why?
Now I could see the team, getting another quarterback, maybe through the draft or whatnot. Maybe to come in and bring some competition. But Derek Carr is a good quarterback. I mean, I don't see how anybody would see otherwise, and I don't see how, at this point, anybody would come to the conclusion, that Derek wouldn't be the quarterback.
Well, the reason why I ask, though, okay, is because Gruden. I mean, Gannon called the game, right? He's in the booth, and Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl with him. And other than that, this may be unfair to say, but the sense you get is that Gruden is constantly looking for quarterbacks other than them who he actually likes and he appreciates. I'm wondering what you could fill me in on his relationship or his thoughts on Derek Carr, Charles.
Well, I think everybody knows Gruden is the Gruden grinder. He's tough on quarterbacks, and he was certainly that way with Rich Gannon when I was there. I mean, there was always instances of him and Rich Gannon going at it. But Rich Gannon was a tough quarterback, a good quarterback, and he would give it as good as he got it.
Is that right?
I feel like Derek can. Say it again.
Is that right? You gave it back to Gruden?
Oh, no, there's no doubt. There would be times when he would be, fed up with it, and he would have to come back. But I mean, that's the way their relationship was. But I think he got the best out of Rich Gannon, because their relationship was the way it was, and I'm sure Gannon appreciated it because he had his best years, there in Oakland. And I believe the same thing we could say the same thing could happen to Derek Carr. And I think if you give up on him too soon, I don't think you'll be able to, get the best out of him. And when I look at the team, man, there's far more than Derek that's on that field. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into a team. It's not just one player who has, in a position where you're not winning games. Again, they were up 16-3. And a lot of that was because of what, Derek Carr was out there doing. Yeah, and so gave up, a long drive late in the game defensively. So everybody's to blame, for anything that doesn't go well on a team. And I know Derek Carr can play the game of football. So, again, I mean, I stand behind the kid's play, and I think he's done very, very well for the Raiders.
Charles Woodson here on the Rich Eisen Show. Before we move on to college football, where you are spending your first year as an analyst with Fox Sports, the best team you've seen so far, whether in person or watching on TV in 2019 in the NFL, would be which one? Best one.
Yeah, well, I think, in person, of course, the best team I saw was, up in Ann Arbor, in our stadium, and watching our team go up against their rival. I watched that game and, watched in particular, their running game and the offensive line. I think they far outweighed our defensive line and kind of pushed those guys around throughout the game and made things easy, for their running back who had a field day. And then Justin Fields, I thought quarterback-wise, man, I thought all season long he was as steady as any quarterback in the game. And I just have, to me, I have one visual of him, and that's him going into the tent and, had his knee, evaluated, and then he comes out of the tent, and in the very next play, he throws a touchdown. That's the kind of thing when you play this game and you know how tough it is, how hard it is to go out there and play through injury, to see a kid do that, that was pretty special.
Now, when you were, by the way, first of all, great way to talk about the Buckeyes without saying their name. I really appreciate that. I picked up on that, Charles. Were you sitting next to Urban watching that game? Was that happening? Were you with him?
Yeah. For a part of it, absolutely.
And then you had
part of it, especially late in the game, as we're getting ready to do our post game. I was sitting next to him, and what do you say? What do you say, to a guy who was 7-0 against you, and then all of a sudden you're sitting next to him, and they're going for 8-0, and your team is out there getting spanked. That's an uncomfortable position to be in.
Well, Charles, I broadcast the draft with Urban Meyer in Chicago a few years ago on night 2 when Ohio State set the record for most draft choices in the first 3 rounds of an NFL draft, and Michigan had yet to have a single player drafted. And every single time I looked down the set, he gave me a smile. I don't know if it was out of sheer pity. It's the only word for it. He gave me his number. He said, "Hey, I'll come on your show anytime," and he did. He actually did, so he's a man of his word.
Yeah.
That was not fun.
Yep.
That was awful. And so I feel you, Charles, but you knew that.
Yeah, no doubt.
So what, I guess then the door's open here. What can be done to get Michigan back on this footing that we know, that you had them on in the mid to late 90s? What can be done as their signing day is beginning to roll in a little bit today, Charles?
Well, for me, I think, just in particular, as I looked at the last football game that we played out there at home, the first half of that game, for one, we couldn't stop the run, all day, which, okay, that happens at times. But when you're playing a team and they're able to run the ball like the way the Buckeyes were able to run the ball, you have to make them go the long way. So, yeah, if they can run the ball, you let them get 5 here, maybe 3 there, but you make them go the long way. What we continue to do in that game, whenever we're playing those guys, we continue to give up big plays, and then when we have opportunities to make plays, we kind of squander them off. And, just going through the game, I remember we scored the first touchdown. We scored a touchdown, get 6, and all of a sudden we missed the extra point. And then we go to we couldn't get off the field on third down. We finally got off the field on third down. We come in, it's 4th and 5, and we jump off sides on a punt and give them the ball back. And then the very next play, touchdown. They throw a 50-yard pass down the field. I think it went down to the 2 or 3 yard.
And then Dobbins ran it in.
And then they ran it in.
Yep.
And then he ran it in. Then we have a touchdown at the end of the half. We dropped the pass once we get to the ground. So we've had opportunity after opportunity. And then Rich, we're on the ground and we're untying people's shoe, and we get an unsportsmanlike conduct. Like against a great team, you cannot make mistakes, and you have to capitalize on all of your opportunities. And so, for me, I think that's first thing for our team is that in big moments they have to make the play, and they cannot make mistakes. I'm not for anyone saying that we don't have talent on the team. We certainly have talent on our team, but in those moments, you got to have somebody in the middle of the field when the ball's thrown deep. You got to be able to make the plays, that are there for you to make. So that would be first and foremost. I would emphasize that if I was the coach going forward, until I was blue in the face.
Charles Woodson here on the Rich Eisen Show. That said, I just have a feeling Dabo is just sitting there in Clemson. He's got these guys. I mean, how can a team that's a national champion that's defending it and didn't lose a game have the ability to say nobody believes in us and play that card, which he's doing? He's playing that card every day, and I would, if I was everybody else, I'd look out for him and that team. What say you, Charles?
Yeah, I think so too. And give credit to Dabo and their team for what they've done over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. Incredible football team. I think where people knock Clemson is really not any fault of their own, but it's the schedule. Their schedule was pretty favorable. They played the last month and a half or so and hadn't played a team that was ranked. And like I said, there's no fault of their own. They just have to go out and win. And I think people were looking for Clemson to maybe drop one game. All the scenarios where if they were to drop a game, then they were out of it. So it's like people were looking for that team to drop off somewhere, and here they are. They find themselves back in the championship game, the playoffs, and an opportunity to go to the championship game again. So give those guys a lot of credit. They had to take some of that heat for people saying, hey, they're not that good. Look at who they played and all of that good stuff. But we'll see what happens at the end of the season, and they'll have their chance to certainly, stick it to everybody if they win another one.
Last couple of minutes with Charles Woodson here on the Rich Eisen Show. Were you at the Heisman, or you had to tap out of that to go to Oakland? Or were you at both? Did you do both?
Yeah, I did both, man. It was a pretty eventful weekend. So I flew out there to Oakland, and I did the show for the grind Thursday, Friday, and I shot to New York Friday night.
That's it.
I was at the Heisman Saturday, and I shot back to Oakland on Sunday morning, man, so I could be a part of that historic moment.
Who'd you vote for in the Heisman?
I voted for the three guys. For the guys, everybody that was there, Rich, that's who I voted for.
No, are you saying that because you don't want to say, or you're not allowed to say? Are you not allowed to say?
No, I'm allowed to say, man. I'm just trying to have a little fun with it.
Okay.
But no.
Because I was about to say, they gave you the trophy, man. They're not going to take it back. You know what I mean? It's your trophy.
They can't take it. They can't take it. But no, for me, I being able to see Fields in person, like I said, I thought he was impressive. Impressive as a player that I had seen that season. I went with Fields, and then I went Burrow, and third was
Chase. Did you go Chase Young, or did you go Jalen Hurts?
I think I had Jalen Hurts.
I love his story, Charles. I love his story. And LSU fans who are obviously euphoric right now, that's kind of like the last guy that they want to see from the days in Alabama. Obviously, that's not Alabama walking through the door. It is Oklahoma. You never know. But I love his stick-to-itiveness. I love everything about Jalen Hurts. I think he is going to knock it out of the park at the Combine, and I cannot wait to see what he has in store. I love that kid, man.
Yeah,
I've never met him, but I just love it all.
Watching him all season, and the way he would conduct himself after games, after wins, and just straightforward, business-like approach, man. He never gave people what they wanted. He just, stuck his nose, to the grind, so to speak, man, and just kept on going forward. And just like you say, man, his story, and especially with playing for Alabama, being a champion at Alabama, and then kind of run out of there and have to, go to another school, and now he has another chance to take another school, to a national championship. I think is a pretty cool story for sure.
Have you ever talked to Peyton about beating him in the Heisman Trophy? Do you ever bring that up? Has that ever come up in conversation, Charles, with Peyton Manning and you?
No, it has not. Nope.
Okay.
It has not.
I don't know why it would.
I only have conversations back and forth with people on Twitter.
Okay, yeah, he's not on Twitter. I know that for sure. Oh man, but you did, when it all comes down to it, be a professional and be somebody who is a Heisman Trophy winner, who gives it to who he thinks is best and does not play any favorites or biases. You go ahead and you voted for an Ohio State Buckeye. That's what you did, Charles. Fact? Yes, that happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fact. I mean, like you say, I don't play favorites. I give credit to where credit is due.
Very good.
And I vote for who I think is the best.
You are the best. Love you, Charles Woodson. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
And by the way, as you saw, I popped open the Intercept wine the other day. It is so good. The Chardonnay. Pop that one open. Now, I don't drink a lot of white, but that is some good stuff you're making, Charles.
Yeah, man. 90 points on wine enthusiasts for the Chardonnay, 92 points for the Pinot Noir, man. So I always appreciate your support, man, and sharing those moments with me when you're popping a bottle of that Intercept wine.
Always, Charles. You're the best. We'll chat soon, okay, man?
All right, thanks, Rich.
You got that's Charles Woodson here on The Rich Eisen Show.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download The Rich Eisen Show app.